Thor Love and Thunder dropped 2 big old classic post-credit scenes and some Easter eggs on the way to them, so let's talk about what it all means for the MCU and how we like it. BD here with your Thor Love and Thunder breakdown and reaction video. This one is going to have full spoilers for Thor Love and Thunder as we rattle off some big Easter eggs, connections to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, and what the scenes and words at the end of the movie might just mean. My full review will be at the end of this video, so hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to our Phase Zero YouTube channel. Let's jump in.
Really dragging this out.
First off, the Necrosword is introduced early in the film, and it seems to power Gore after he falls and cuts his hand on it. In comics, the Necrosword is the first symbiote, and the symbiote is what makes Venom Venom. Marvel Studios doesn't have movie rights to the symbiote, but it seems they have played the story of the Necrosword close enough legally to the story of the sword from the comics so that if an opportunity comes up to make this a symbiote, they can tie the history of this god-killing blade to the symbiote in the MCU. Fun fact, Christian Bale kept the sword after filming this movie, and you can see him talk about it in our exclusive interview on the Phase Zero YouTube channel.
I have the sword. You know, I have that.
We see a bunch of gods dead on the distress signals that the Guardians of the Galaxy pick up on their ship, including Thalagar, who is pulled straight from the comics, and a shot of butchered gods hanging, also pulled straight from the God of Thunder book. One big question I have here is why are the Guardians not more actively searching for 2014's Gamora, who is just seemingly running around the current MCU after being plucked out of the past and dropped into the present at the end of Avengers Endgame? Kraglin is just finding a bunch of women and marrying them on every planet, which could be a nod to the fact his now dead best friend Yondu sought out the company of women when traveling from planet to planet, as demonstrated by a scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 where he was seen in a brothel. Lady Sif has a more comics-accurate appearance in this film, which is cool, rocking a headpiece that mirrors her looks on the pages, but also, why did she lose an arm off screen? Like, genuinely, I'm at, like, there had to be deleted scenes with Lady Sif, right? Like, they didn't bring Jamie Alexander back just to be like, oh, she lost an arm, right? A bunch of gods get name-dropped throughout the movie, including Tumatuanga, the Polynesian god of war, and Akua in Marvel Comics. Quetzalcoatl, who possesses the conventional superhuman physical attributes of an Aztec god, but with an enhanced strength enabling him to press about 100 tons, thanks Google. Ra, the god of the suns, who is tied to the Sun King, who we think Arthur Harrow was basically supposed to be on Moon Knight, and Hercules, the son of Zeus, who can bring a really tragic story to the MCU, giving his history of being abandoned by his parents, while having godly powers and strength. More on Hercules in a minute. Much like the comics, Jane's mother Elaine died of cancer when Jane was just a child, and we now see her battling cancer herself, with the Mjolnir hammer seeming to be the only way for her to regain any strength. In the books, Jane's cancer does not start at stage 4 as it does in the film, but progresses to it because she keeps transforming into Thor when she uses the hammer. She goes on to play parts in several key comic stories, including Secret Wars. In the books, Thor refused to accept Jane's death, so as she reached the gates of Valhalla, Thor worked with Odin to successfully revive Jane. This feels like something that could certainly happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, given where we last saw Jane in Love and Thunder, the gates of Valhalla with Heimdall. While we're at it, just bring Heimdall back too. Bring them all back.
I saw you coming.
The movie also introduces us to Eternity, which looks incredible given that Eternity actually looked just like Eternity from the comics, but Eternity was basically a wishing well in this film, whereas Eternity in comics simply has the ability to physically manifest any force living in the Earth dimension. Basically, Eternity is insanely powerful, and now Eternity exists in the MCU, and I think actually, we got our first kind of Eternity tease back in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when Star-Lord's eyes were filled with stars and he said he sees eternity. But that might just be me tinfoil hatting it and thinking back then I wanted to see one of the most powerful entities from Marvel Comics in the MCU, and now we have.
Eternity.
The post-credits scene was particularly exciting because it came with the introduction of Brett Goldstein as Hercules in a comics-accurate costume. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Roy Kent. Roy, if you didn't watch Ted Lasso, that one just, I'm sorry for you. You should watch Ted Lasso. Thor and Hercules have fought against each other and fought with each other on the pages of Marvel Comics, so my bet is that the future will see Hercules realizing his parents never treated him, or others, very well, and teaming up with the God of Thunder and possibly taking down his father. Zeus is in the cards.
Thor 5, he's still alive.
Now, my thoughts on the film. Overall, I loved this movie. I've seen it twice now. It wouldn't have taken much to make it a better film, to be honest, and by that, I mean about 20 more minutes. My biggest problem with the film is that Gore the God Butcher never really butchered on screen. The movie opened with one kill, but then showed us pictures of a bunch of dead gods and never showed him killing them. It kind of made other scenes feel less scary when he should have been really unpredictable and dangerous feeling.
I'm counting on that.
In fact, he had plenty of chances to kill Thor, Jane, and Valkyrie, and I never really felt like any of them were truly in actual danger. Christian Bale's performance saves the villain, who has a good story on paper but is not sufficiently shown on screen. Valkyrie could have had more of an arc rather than pretty much just being there. Tessa Thompson does a great job, and it was nice to hear Korg and Valkyrie explore her trauma and backstory, but I'd like to have seen it, and also seen her get a bit more to do, and maybe even be involved in the culmination of the story rather than being sidelined for it. Jane Foster's return really was mighty, and the relationship between Jade and Odinson was brilliant. It's probably my favorite part of the film. Seeing OG Thor being vulnerable and in love really did work for me, and the gut punch moment of Jane telling him she has cancer landed really powerfully. The romance element of the film worked really well for me as well, right up to seeing Korg and his new rock body and a rock man coming together with a mustache for Dwayne. I thought that was hilarious. I'm really tired of seeing Thor lose all the time. The dude has lost so much, more than anybody else in the MCU, but I love that it culminates with Thor choosing love and taking on a fatherly role going forward, which, by the way, is played by Chris Hemsworth's real-life daughter. The character is silly, and I do kind of miss Shakespearean Thor, but this was my favorite Thor movie yet, if I'm being honest. I do want to say, though, the Guardians of the Galaxy seem to be a bit out of stride. Possibly because James Gunn wasn't directing them, but they just felt a little off and like something was missing in their chemistry. Overall, I thought the movie was hugely entertaining, an absolute blast, some solid action scenes, some bad CGI, but also some good CGI at times, some great world building, plenty of emotional weight, and an exciting post-credit scene to top it all off. That's a high score for me. What do you think of Thor 4? Share your thoughts in the comment section, or any Easter eggs you caught that we might have missed in this video, or send them all my way on Twitter at BrandonDavisBD, and subscribe to the Phase Zero YouTube channel for more videos like this one. I'm BD, I'll see you there.